Hey everyone, Hayden Barton, the Batman tradition. I'm back because, as I've said before, often when I decide to make a video, I always want to make videos, but sometimes I have to be inspired, or be in that right mood. So, as I'm finding out with this channel, I'll always have that thought of like, yeah, man, that'd be a cool video, but I don't know if I'm necessarily in the mindset, or that right type of way of thinking to really do it in the way or justice or kind of what I feel like would be getting the message across the most with it, if that makes sense. But thank you for everyone who has been subscribing or watching the videos. You all are awesome. I think I've gotten 20 plus subscribers or something lately through the shorts and the videos. And, like I always say, eventually I want to make it more pretty, better edited, better background. Right now you got my two signed Brad Pitt photos from F1 and a couple Batman McFarlanes over there, and my record player. Not the best brand, don't judge me, but trying to get it prettier up. But today, one of my favorite videos I actually enjoyed doing was sort of the retrospect insight and kind of my thoughts to the Bruce Wayne Max Schreck meeting video I did. As I say, a lot of what I want this channel to be is on top of just talking about the films, the movies, the potential actors, rumors, and dates, but kind of an interesting, insightful kind of look into what I think about some scenes with Bruce Wayne. Some aspects I think people who are kind of gravitating maybe to what I'm trying to do or have some sort of an interest that they look at him as maybe something they can implement into their own lives, or they really look at Batman and Bruce Wayne as that kind of character to look forward to, and kind of as a guideline sometimes, because people do it. People have heroes of all kinds, fictional and in real life. And so for this, I think this is something I enjoy doing, and I often go through ups and downs of who kind of like what Batman I'm into right now, or what one I'm feeling, or actor. And so it goes. I'll make videos about Snyder stuff, Burton's stuff. And right now, it's kind of a Schumacher thing. I think maybe it's because with Batman Day, he really was celebrated with Batman Forever, the showing at Warner Brothers, and the suits, which I think was awesome for Val and Schumacher, who both, passed away recently, not too long ago. So that's on my mind. And I really like kind of what's going on right now, because I think Batman Forever is having some kind of a renaissance. I don't feel like people really always disliked this film, but I think sometimes it just fell into the same category as Batman and Robin. Just where maybe if people really sat down and thought about it, they'd be like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I like this one. Or, yeah, that's cool. He crushed it. Kilmer was great. But I think over time, they kind of just generally mesh them all together as those two Schumacher films, not really having the best like reputation or like, reviews of people you ask. But lately, I think people are starting to separate it so they can look at Batman Forever just as itself and the film and what they did. And that's not to say, people don't always, say, because there are some silly parts in the movie, some where you might be like, yeah, there's a little bit of that, forced kid type of humor and silliness in it. But also there is some aspects of Batman Forever that when it gets serious and it dives into Bruce, Batman, Val Kilmer's portrayal and aspects, like there's so much good to talk about this film, and it does so much that like really crushes it, that I think people are starting to notice like, hey, this isn't one to just kind of pass off. Like, this is actually a Batman film that has a lot of sort of worthwhile content and things to celebrate, So one aspect this film heavily focuses on, of course, because it introduces Dick Grayson to the Batman world, live action. Now, I was going to say first time, I know the TV show, but first action, live action for the films, of course, with Chris O'Donnell. And the story they chose for Batman Forever, as everyone knows, is that he's heavily weighing the guilt and the revenge of, his parents dying by Two-Face in this film. Now, we know that's not really canon for the comics, but that's what they chose for the films, because, films do what they do. But it's kind of creates sort of a relationship similarity and sort of things that Bruce and Dick can both kind of relate upon because they both lost their parents, they were both murdered, they both have that sense for revenge and, you know, kind of struggling with the guilt or how to, like, you know, really handle it, which, you know, most people will say when it comes to Dick Grayson especially, that's a huge part of his character, you know, that's why him and Bruce, and oftentimes he's looked upon as the pinnacle of Robin's or sometimes his closest son because they have that relationship. So in the scene we're going to go over is essentially where Dick Grayson first finds out that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and he actually saves him and not saves him, but takes it out on the Batmobile out on a joyride. Batman comes down, kind of saves him from some people he was fighting off, and the scene ends in a really kind of beautiful but sad part where when Batman and Bruce comes to save him, you know, he starts hitting Bruce out of kind of like a sadness, distraught, rage-filled, like, not anger, but almost like breaking down, like he's about to cry just because he has so much going through because he wants to blame Batman for not saving his parents. And at the very end, you know, he's saying it should have been you. You were at the circus. And Val Kilmer delivers an awesome line, perfectly, very stoically, very Batman, of like, if Bruce Wayne could have saved your parents, he would have, because he does try. So this is the aftermath of them getting back into the Batcave. And with Dick kind of circulating all these thoughts now of finding this out and what he can do and this opportunity he thinks he has to go and, you know, potentially get revenge on Two-Face, I almost said toothpaste, with Bruce's help. This is kind of the sort of father figure aspect we first see Bruce kind of adopt into this Dick Grayson in live action, to where Bruce has experienced this first. He's experienced the low that Dick Grayson is facing right now, and he has essentially found the end of the road and his way to deal with the guilt. But most Batman fans know that just because Batman did it doesn't mean he always tries to, like, he essentially always says, hey, the way I did it, no, don't follow me, be better than me. You know, I chose this path and it was a way of healing, but at the same time, I am broken and I know I'm not perfect. Like, he still puts on to Robins and people that, you know, you have the chance to be better than I am and do this in a better way and be happy, find a life, and find people you love. And so this is essentially where we see in this scene is where Bruce Wayne kind of speaks about how, you know, you don't need to do this. You know, he speaks about his revenge, how he feels, the guilt he carries. And so where the business aspect video I made with Keaton, we talked about his mentality with talking with people, conversing with people. This one, of course, you might think could be circumstantial because it's like, well, you know, how does this situation kind of correlate to this, or how do we adapt this? And where I'm thinking essentially is the way Bruce speaks upon Dick carrying guilt and revenge and his obsession over particular things that are negative in his life is where I think, to me, this resonates, and you can kind of think about those aspects for your own life. So let's dive into it. Here we go. Play.
He took my whole life. When I was out there tonight, I imagined it was him that I was fighting. Even when I was fighting you. And all the pain went away. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so even just before Bruce even gets into it, think about the way Dick says, even when I was fighting you, it was all I could see. All I could see was Two-Face. Now think about how, now I'll even admit to, you know, I suffer through a lot of anxiety sometimes, or some sort of, like, I think when that correlates into anger or getting angry for a lot of people, or that anxious feeling, they really fixate on that. Like, even if it's something that they can't, you know, deal with in the now, even if it's something they're going to have to deal with 3 weeks from now, or something they just have no control over, how often do we let it just ruminate and fixate in our minds? You know, we could go about our whole day when we should be relaxing or enjoying life, but we're letting this one aspect, this one situation, this one person really just kind of control our lives or control our happiness without them even being there to control that. And we see this in how Dick is talking about how with Two-Face, everything he goes, everything he thinks is evolving Two-Face, right? So again, this is something Bruce clearly has experienced with him and his parents' murder. And that is something in an aspect intertwining to where I think everyone does that. And as hard as it is, and I'll clarify as well too, when I speak about this stuff, I have not perfected any of this. Like what I just spoke about right there about ruminating and fixating on things that, I really don't have control over is probably one of the biggest things I suffer on and need to work on myself. Play.
Because you gotta help me find him. And when we do, I'm the one who kills him.
So you're willing to take a life?
As long as it's Two-Face.
I think one thing people don't often sometimes think about too in these scenes, because Bruce is speaking about so you're willing to take a life, and yes, I do understand, is that these films technically brand or connect with the Keaton films. So this is also coming from a place, truth be told, because people will point out, Keaton's Batman has killed people, and he did kill people in both films. And so this is also Bruce coming off from, I have myself experienced what you're wanting to do. It isn't just me being a stoic sort of, hey, do this, don't do this is the right way, this is the wrong way, because it's always easy to say that from the outside look. Even when you're speaking with someone, I think everyone could admit it's easier to tell someone else what they should do or the right thing to do sometimes than it is for us, because as we're sitting there where we know we're not going to have to take the action or it doesn't correlate to us, it's much easier to be like, oh, well, you should have done this or you should do this, right? To where oftentimes, we ourselves might have an issue even following our own advice if we were in that person's situation. Bruce is speaking off the fact that he isn't just telling Dick, hey, this is what I think, this is what you should do. It's like, hey, I know, I understand, I have been there, I've experienced, I have almost, unfortunately followed a dark path that you're wanting to follow. And here's what happened. Here's why I'm telling you to get away from it. So that portion of it, of Kilmore speaking, is really the sort of main topic of this conversation and for this video, right? Because him laying down sort of the advice that, Dick Grayson doesn't want to hear of, what you're feeling right now and the pain you're feeling and the obsession you're feeling. When you get to that, if you find that closure or think you get to that point where this is what's going to solve your issue, this is what's going to finally let you be at peace, it doesn't end, right? You feel that way, but in the end, it continuously keeps going and going. It's a vicious cycle that unless you break it, you will never be happy. And he's given Dick Grayson the point where he has a chance to be different. He has a free ticket to make a better choice on this path to continue his life and be happy. Because, as Bruce says with vengeance, right, he says, you run to the night, you go to find another face, and then you realize that your whole entire life has been about revenge. Now, let's speak about the factor of how often we as humans when we fixate on something that really bothers us, something that worries us, or something that scares us, do we often let it control our whole life? We base so many of our, actions around it, our thoughts, our decisions, and often it's really not a place from where we generally feel we can be most happy about. We kind of dive into the fear of, this person wronged me, that wronged me, I didn't like that, this is what's bothering me, and I have to continuously chase something to I will always be happy. I will be happy then. I will be happy then. And, I think as Bruce is saying, that's not the way to go about life. If you follow that path of just continuously, it does not end. You will always find something in your life to stress or to put that anxiety or that fear on. As most people learn going throughout their life, and maybe it's something I'm learning as a 28-year-old more into my life, because we always chase that, that perfect balance of life where everyone wishes, hey, I have nothing wrong in my life right now. Nothing in this day is going off. This is the perfect day. I'm at peace. Nothing's wrong. I'm okay. I'm healthy. No one's bothering me. No one's ruining my day. But life is too crazy. Life is too filled with curveballs and sort of negative things that, I think I'm learning more in my life, because I definitely chase that sort of, or I used to chase, or sometimes I'm not great and always still try to chase that balance. But I'm learning it's not really about chasing a perfect life where everything is easy and just, the dream scenario of no hate, no anxiety, no fear, no stress. It's about the balance of finding that peace, finding that happiness and that joy around those aspects, because life happens and life's not going to stop happening where you're going to find these issues in your life. If you constantly chase this happiness every day and fixate on the one smallest detail to then, oh, my day's ruined. Oh, I can't be happy anymore because of this. I and myself am learning this, that if you're chasing that, if you're chasing the aspect of trying to be perfectly happy, you are never going to be happy. If you put significance on everything, nothing has significance. If you want everything to be joyful and nothing to be negative, nothing can be joyful without some things being negative. If everything was joyful, we wouldn't know, because there's nothing negative. There's nothing to really dictate, hey, this is good, this is bad. So in this aspect of Bruce talking to Dick about the vicious cycle, think about it as almost like addiction, right? Think about people who suffer with alcohol addiction, OCD, anxiety. Most people can kind of honestly admit, even I can as well too, when we fixate on that one thing and spend so much time, waste so much effort into correcting it or chasing that feeling of relaxation or that fear is being gone, often something else follows that causes something else. That fear just continuously goes and goes and goes and doesn't stop. So from the aspect of Bruce Wayne, essentially we have to stop following that vicious cycle. We have to break the cycle that he followed of following down a dark path of always feeding into that fear and addiction and that revenge cycle in our lives to find happiness, to find joy, even in the aspects of us. Everyone suffers pain, everyone suffers loss, everyone suffers, hardships in their life that oftentimes it looks like, it often looks like it's hard to always find where that peace is going to come from, where that joy or happiness is finally going to return into our lives. But it's there. It always comes back in time or with the fight or the sort of, perseverance to look past the negative, right? Fight past it. Don't just sit there and ruminate on it. Don't let something so negatively impact your day, small or big, that it ruins you being present in the day right now where you should be enjoying yourself, you know? Let me say, for instance, today's my day off, right? Of course, I have things with my work or things going on in my personal life that is, even like I said, I'm not perfect about these, and I suffer especially about letting some of those aspects negatively ruminate in my mind to where I can't stop thinking about it, to where oftentimes if it's gotten bad, I hit, that point at nighttime where I'm like, well, I got to go to bed now. It's time to go up for work. Days off are over. And what did I do? I stressed about something I had no control over for 2 days when I should be relaxing. How selfish am I to let other people and their actions and what they say dictate where the areas of my life I'm supposed to find my happiness at, to find that joy? So don't ruminate about these aspects. If you can solve it, solve it. If it's out of your control, learn to relax. Learn to not put significance on every aspect of your life, right? Well, here's a 20-minute video of maybe some ramblings and a sermon, if you will, I'm trying to give you over a Batman Forever clip, but I think it's aspects that I put in every video that if you look to this character in a very meaningful way that I know a lot of people out there do. They don't just look at it as a superficial character for entertainment. Some people really dig deep in, and this character means a lot to a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And so I'm making these videos because of something that when I watch these scenes, and I think people who have this deep connection to the character, they see this as well. When they're watching it, it's not just a movie scene to them or two actors just saying lines back and forth. It's really something they're trying to delve in to help themselves as well from a character they look up to. So please, me, myself included, I'm speaking to myself in the camera. I can see myself right here in this reflection, the man in the mirror. Do not stress. Do not ruminate. Do not put significance on every aspect of your life, because then nothing will be significant. If you chase being perfectly happy, you will never find happiness. This has been Hayden Barton for the Batman Tradition. Find your happiness, find your own happiness around life, and just enjoy yourself. Talk to you soon. Take care.